Vegas Handicapping Studios with BettorCenter Live, and we have got plenty of action for you to talk about today. We do have a little college football tonight. We have a little bit of the Major League Baseball playoffs. We have college football tomorrow night. We got a couple games for Saturday we're going to talk about. Big games, too. Finally, some big games in college football coming up, especially with the Georgia game this Saturday. So we're going to talk a little bit about that when Georgia faces off against Alabama and their head coach, Nick Saban. Obviously, you probably know, but if not, he has tested positive for COVID. So that game got steamed. Everybody jumped on Georgia after that announcement. And in case you didn't watch the show yesterday, but if you did, hopefully you took advantage of Paul Bovey gave you the Chicago Bears yesterday as an early look, and that line steamed on the Bears as the game went from -3 down to a pick'em. So guys, you got some good information coming out of BettorCenter Live, so please do everybody here a favor. Show a little appreciation. Give us a little subscribe at the bottom. Show a little bit of love. And either subscribe on Facebook or YouTube. And we will get you this information as soon as possible. Think about that right now. You'd have the Bears at +3. And now, at worst, you got to pick them. Or even, you got to pick them. So you got a nice fat middle with a key number there. So kudos to you, Paul Bovey. Thank you for bringing that. Look forward to you coming next week. But let's get to the guys that are with us here today. And let me introduce you the fearsome twosome, and that is Chip Chirimbes and Ross Benjamin. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning, Louie.
Good morning, Louie. You look great, Chip, by the way. I love these outfits you're wearing the last 2 days. It makes me feel like a peasant.
Fashion consultant, which is really helping me.
Yeah, definitely stepping up the game there, Chip. And listen now, Chip, I want to publicly apologize to you. I stepped over you on that yesterday when you're trying to cover up with Cusimano over there. My bad. Yeah, I don't play well with others sometimes, guys. I apologize. But we shall move forward. And thank you for accepting my apology, which you did yesterday, Chip. And let's move forward and start making some money. Let's talk about this college football game here tonight. We'll start right there with Arkansas State, and they are at home playing Georgia State, the Panthers of Georgia State. The total opened up at 72. I'm getting, or 70, now it's 72.5. So, but it's really no movement there. Not too much movement on the side. Arkansas State did go from 3.5 down to 3. So that is a critical move, but it didn't do much. Just a little touch on Georgia State. Now, Georgia State comes into this game without very good numbers. 6-13-2. Their last 29 conference games. They are 2-7-1 versus a team with a losing record. 2-10-2 on the road. So the numbers are not favoring, at least the trends, Georgia State. Little bit of positive stuff with the Red Wolves. 4-1 their last 5 overall. 5-1 on Thursday. Numbers are telling us a little bit of Arkansas State. How about you, Ross? Are you going to tell us something here?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to use this game tonight. I'm going to look at it further. But again, folks, just because the game's on a Thursday night doesn't mean you have to bet on it. Okay, sometimes the best bets are no bet at all. Okay, this is a game. If I put it on a Saturday card, would I use it? That's how I'm going to look at this. Having said that, Arkansas State's got a pretty good history of in conference play at home. So that's number one advantage. Number two advantage is that the public is probably going to be on Georgia State tonight. That's my estimation, because Arkansas State's coming off that blowout loss, I think, against Coastal Carolina, right, Louis? Or Liberty, one of those teams that are playing real well right now. In any event, they got blown out. What team is going to show up? The Arkansas State team that went on the road to Kansas State and knocked off Kansas State as a double-digit underdog, or the one that got blown out last week? Georgia State put up a real good fight against nationally ranked UL Lafayette. As a matter of fact, they blew a 17-point lead in that game and lost by 3 in overtime. You're right, Louis. They've had a history of ineptness on the road. So just by going with the strong home field against a team that's really not had a lot of success on the road, albeit they did knock off Tennessee on the road last year, you would have to give a slight advantage to Arkansas State. And like I said, I don't like betting with the public. They're right on occasion, but most times than not, it's the books that come out on top when it comes to a heavily bet side. I got a feeling that's going to be the case tonight. Back to you, Louis.
All right. Last week, it was Central Arkansas. They blew out at 50-27. And easy
no, I'm
cover
talking about Arkansas State. All right, the week before, I think they got blown out, or no? Am I wrong?
Yeah, they got blown out by Coastal Carolina. Then they rebounded. Yes, 52-23. My bad. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and they rebounded against a inferior opponent. So what are your thoughts here, Chip? What are you thinking? Anything on the game here tonight?
Well, I'm like Ross as far as this game is concerned. If it was on a Saturday, we wouldn't have any part of it. I passed on the game tonight, particularly. When I first saw it, I realized Georgia State's conference record is so weak that I started gravitating toward Arkansas State. But, this team's name has come up twice, came up yesterday. We talked about Coastal Carolina. They played Stanford. Campbell. This team can play football. I saw them last night. I was very surprised. They were physical. And I think the fact that one of these teams got beat by them doesn't bother me at all because that's a really good football team. I would lay it before I take it. It's not a game I'm going to use. But like I said, what I've learned about Coastal Carolina was quite surprising yesterday.
All right. I think you got a little bit of a play on the over here tonight. Everybody's looking for a little action. Everybody knows you want to give out a little pick. So I'm going to just give out a little pick on the game. I'm not going to really tear it into it or anything like that. I believe the over may have a little bit of an edge. You got two teams that have been playing over this season, 4-1 to the over and 3-2 to the over. So just trending that way. But Georgia State comes in 5-1 to the over their last 6 as an underdog. But not much after that, 17-6 to the under following a straight up win. And they do have some undering numbers, but head to head, when they do get together with Arkansas State, the game does tend to go over 4 of the last 5 head to head. And Arkansas State, 6 out of the last 7 have gone over. And I just feel that there's probably a little bit of an edge for a little beer can action today with the over. It's a high number, but I wouldn't play it under. I'd play this one over the 72. All right, let's get into a little bit of Major League Baseball here tonight. Now, Tampa and Houston have yet to decide on a pitcher, so we really don't have too much to go on besides there's a line out there of $1.35 or $1.37, $1.38 with Tampa Bay, and the total is 8.5. I know it's tough to make a call or pull the trigger without the pitchers, but do you have anything you can offer us today on the game, Chip?
Well, I imagine that Dave Cash is going to use his all staff today. Every pitcher is going to be available, and I'm wondering if he's going to start Blake Snell. If Snell gets the start, he started game 1, I have a tendency to want to like Tampa Bay here to end the series. But Houston's got their backs up against the wall. We have to find out if Altuve is going to know what pitches are coming so he can field ground balls or not. At the plate, he's been okay. Of course, he cost them a big game in game 2. But right now, this is a tough call without knowing what the pitchers are. We said that Tampa Bay's the favorite here. Houston's got their backs against the wall. I'm actually going to post this game after the show. So there's really not too much I can give you here.
All right. So there you go. Go to chipwins.com so you can get some information once he gets a little more solidified on this game. But anytime, get out there, give him a little bit of look, give him a little bit of love. He's providing some great information every day. Now, Dusty Baker has been there's a little slogan, or I guess the buzz statement is, we don't want to go home. We are not ready to go home. Is Houston ready to go home? What are your thoughts?
You know what? I need more information, Louis. You know what I mean? I can't intelligently comment on a game. My baseball handicapping starts with the starting pitcher. Starting pitching, I should say, or if, like Chip alluded to, are they going to do this? Try to piece this together with their bullpen. So until I know that, I would be remiss to make a prediction on either the side or the total in this game. So if you have an opinion, I'd be more than willing to hear it.
My opinion would be to just pretty much look to play the game under, and I think when but I don't know. I honestly don't know which way it's going to move once they announce the pitching, because, like Chip said, it's all staff day, so that usually is going to get a little steam to the under, but I'm sorry, to the over, but every game's gone under so far. I don't see it's going to change here today. So I would say there's a little bit of an edge on the under. That being said, let's get to the other game where we have a little bit more information. We got Kershaw on the mound for the Dodgers after day off yesterday. Now, Wilson is pitching for the Braves. Kershaw opens up $2. He gets a little steam up to the 220. Game opens up 9.5. They steam it under because Kershaw at 9.5 is pretty much unheard of. So, Chip, I know you're not big on Kershaw in the playoffs. Is this going to be a spot for them to keep a little vibe rolling to get themselves tied up? What are you thinking?
I'm thinking laying 220 is always a task, and I don't like doing that at all. Kershaw's 2-0 in this postseason. He's really been better. Problems with his back. We don't know what his status is going to be there. I mean, does all of a sudden he get a twinge after an inning and a half? But, this Atlanta Bryce Wilson is only his sixth. He started 6 times, his 7th start in the major leagues, never gone more than 5 innings. And it's amazing that the Braves have, in 9 playoff games, have started 6 rookies. And here they are fighting once again. Heavy action on the Dodgers, which we anticipated. And, LA got that wake-up call. We've talked about baseball mojo. They hadn't scored runs for a game and a half, and all of a sudden they have 22 runs in the last 6 at-bats. The Dodgers are starting to put the bat on the ball, and I think this game probably should go over, even with Kershaw, who has a history of giving up runs in playoffs. So I'm not going to lay 220, but I'm afraid to play a rookie starter for the Braves.
Yeah, it's a tough call here for me today as well. And I got 11 runs last night in the first inning. Are they going to be awake is a big question. Let's see what Ross's thoughts are. What do you think, Ross?
Well, I mentioned yesterday that I thought that LA would, the Dodgers are going to be able to carry momentum over from the night before when they finally broke the code on the Atlanta bullpen and scored, I believe, 6 runs in the top of the 9th, and they just fell short in an 8-7 loss. And lo and behold, they took that 6-run 9th the day before, turned it into an 11-run first the following day. There's no way I'm going to lay 220. And even when looking at the run line, it's minus 155 or thereabouts. I don't even like laying 155 on the money line. As a matter of fact, I rarely do. Chipper does make a good point. 9.5 is a pretty high number with Kershaw. And what that tells me is 2 things. Kershaw, the books aren't 100% certain that he's healthy, or they don't think he's 100% healthy. And number 2, they don't have a lot of faith in Bryce Wilson as well. And number 3, if I could add a third option there, is what Chip just mentioned. The Dodgers are starting to hit. And that's a scary notion. So if I really was to make a pick at this particular moment in time, I would look for a reason to use the over. But going back to Kershaw struggling in the postseason, a regular season lion, a postseason lamb, he's certainly not been that this year. He's had 2 very, very good outings in the postseason. So at this particular moment in time, Louis, it's a very difficult call for me in terms of what I'm going to do with the total, because the side is, there's no way I can make a rational case for Atlanta, and I'm not laying the kind of numbers they're asking me to do on the Dodgers.
Yeah, this is absolutely a tough scenario because you really don't know about Kershaw. I mean, he wasn't well enough yesterday, but today he's well enough to do it. That's risky. That's risky, especially at 220. Very, very risky. I think that, you take a flyer with Atlanta if you want to even bet the game. It's a very tough game. And that line, the 9.5, though, the went down to 9. So a lot of that sharp money thinks Kershaw may have enough gas in the tank to keep the game low scoring. We'll see. Tough game to make a call. So before we take a quick break, let's go to college football tomorrow night. We got a lot of college football to talk about here. We touched on it a little bit yesterday. Let's see if we have any more closing thoughts that's going on. Well, I wouldn't say closing because we'll probably touch on it again tomorrow. But BYU at Houston. Tony was there yesterday. BYU minus up to 5 now. And the total went from 60.5 to 62.5 and 63. Anything new for us today here, Chip?
Well, I've learned that the COVID virus has Tony Cosumano at the wrong site. But this game is going to be played in Houston. It's been transferred from Utah, of course. And we had this Houston where they had 5 games that had been canceled, and they were opening their season against Tulane. This was a week or two ago. And, of course, we said that there would be rust on the Houston side, and they go down 24-0, 24-7 at the half, I think it was, they were losing. They come storming back and win the game easily. Now, BYU has got some ranking here and some experience under their belt. I think there's going to be a high-scoring game between these two. I think it's a tough call right now with the change of venue. I would lean toward the home team getting points, which is Houston. And BYU on the road, plus the fact with all these changes, we mentioned it yesterday, we hit on it, the attitude of these players, having a practice routine different and venues being changed continuously, if it hurts their concentration. But my lean here, when I look at this, I'm thinking I should take Houston, but I don't want to fall into that trap of getting seesawed by a team where you have them one day and you get beat and you play against them the next day and they win. So I'm going to go very, very leash, as we say on this one.
All right. Ross, do you think this Houston defense is going to be able to tame Zach Wilson from BYU? He's been on fire, and I'm really kind of curious on how this is going to play out here. What do you think?
Yeah, he's been on fire, but look at the level of competition he's played against. That's
Agreed.
One thing we need to look at. I mean, BYU, very impressive resume so far, but the strength of schedule doesn't lend itself to having a lot of confidence laying points on the road. Yeah, they came up big against Navy, but we knew, first of all, Navy, this is probably the worst team they've had in the last decade. Secondly, they weren't prepared to win that or play that game with no contact during practice. Houston, good point, Chip. They had several games canceled. They opened up last week against a team that had already played 3 games in Tulane. They were rusty early, 24-7 at the half, but they showed their wares in the second half. They got their sea legs, and they really blew them out in the second half. Very experienced Houston team, too. 19 returning starters on both sides of the ball. I'm going to have a small lead at this particular juncture in time on the home underdog in this spot. And by the way, BYU last week is a 33-point favorite, only beat UTSA, University of Texas at San Antonio, on their home field by 7 points. So it's not like they're coming off an impressive showing in their previous game as well. Small lean here on the home underdog, Louis.
All right, small lean on that home dog. I'm going to give a small lean on that over. I do believe that even though the competition has been a lot less, quite inferior than the Houston opponent this week, I believe that BYU will still be able to muster up the points. Houston being home, I'm sure going to put the points on the board. The over is 13-3 for the Cougars following an ATS win. So I will lean on that over tomorrow night. So we are going to be right back because we got a lot of college football, so you need to stick around. Got a lot of college football and NFL to talk about going into this weekend. Get an early look here. Stick around. We'll be right back in about 10-15 seconds.
Brad Stein here live from Las Vegas. Join us daily for BettorCenter Live with our professional handicappers, where you get sports information you can bet on. Stop gambling, start winning. BettorCenter Live.
All right, sports fans, here we are back with some more college football. Again, another game going tomorrow night features the Mustangs of SMU, and they are playing the Green Wave of Tulane. Now, this line opens up at SMU minus 7.5 and has now bet down to 6.5, so across the key number. So money on Tulane crossing the key number also went the money has been going on the under. 67.5 was the opener. Now it's 64.5. And this game, the road team has covered 11 of the last 14 meetings. Just something to note there before I go in and see what maybe Ross has to offer for us on this game tomorrow night. SMU, Tulane. What do you got?
Yeah, actually, Louis, 64.5 is a low total for SMU if you look at their history. Here's the thing I'm looking at here. I mentioned this with Houston, how they recovered in the second half. And I'm a thorough believer. You got to look at teams that come off a momentous second half like they did and go into carrying it over to the next game. Same thing applies here with SMU, but on the opposite side of the spectrum. This is an SMU team last week, or the last game, I should say, that opened up a 24-0 lead on Memphis, relinquished that lead, and had to kick a field goal on the last play of the game to win 30-27. So that lack of momentum might carry over here on the road, especially coming off playing a game against Memphis, who's a perennial power in the AAC. And Tulane, yeah, they're coming off that poor second half against Houston in their previous game. But this is a team that can frustrate SMU. SMU is not a great defensive team. I believe Tulane can run the ball effectively. I think they'll run the ball very effectively in this game. And in doing so, control the time of possession and limit the offensive possessions for SMU. I have a small lean here, again, on the home underdog.
Nice. I like them home underdogs with the lean, but I don't know if I'm riding with you. The Green Wave, 2-10 on Friday games. I'm sure you caught that, Chip, right?
Well, I just remember that discussion we had when SMU was going to Memphis for their first game, and how the line had varied, and I wasn't Memphis going to SMU, I think it was. But regardless, Memphis had beaten them 6 straight times. And Ross had pointed that out to me because I questioned why the line where it was. And all of a sudden there was a turnaround. That was a wild game with SMU getting that big lead and Memphis coming back and then SMU scoring at the end. That had to be an emotional roller coaster for him. This game, like Ross had said, Tulane got off to a great start against Houston and then sort of fell apart in the second half as the talent took over of the Cougars. But I think Tulane's in a pretty decent spot here with SMU coming at the favorite and Tulane having that game under their belt, a little bit more experience, shall we say. I'll take the Green Wave here. If this game was on Saturday, like Russ has said before, it'd be very questionable as to whether we'd be using it. But on Friday night, we're going to have to make a decision to use either both of these games or, one side or another. But, one other comment. That's 72 total, and that's outrageously high, which would make me tend to want it to go over. These totals, like Russ has pointed out, are so much higher than they have been in the past, and the players are going out and scoring points in bunches. So over is always a consideration when these teams match up.
All right. I'll agree with you on the over a little bit as well. 5-2, the last 7 head-to-head matchups. There we go. SMU and Houston tomorrow night. Now let's get into some Saturday action where we got Alabama playing Georgia. We got Nick Saban coming down with COVID. We got a major line move when Alabama opens up 7.5 down to 4. Coaching 3.5 points. Am I missing something here, guys? Ross, you got anything on that?
Yeah, I think that part of that move, Louis, I agree with you, is the Saban factor, but I also think most of it is the sharp money coming in on Georgia. Look, if you look inside the numbers here, Georgia matches up very well here. This is not the Alabama defense that we've seen in recent years. Clearly. I mean, they've given up over 30 points a game and close to 480 yards per game in total defense, okay? They're going to be facing a Georgia team. In my estimation, I'm going to go out on a limb. As of today, there's nobody close in the country right now as good defensively as Georgia is. And they're going to give Alabama fits. Now, are they going to hold Alabama to 12 points like they've been allowing? No. Alabama's going to get their share. But we often hear the term complementary football. And Georgia is textbook in that regard. I already mentioned 12 points per game and 236 yards allowed per contest thus far. I also want to bring to the listeners' attention that they're averaging 36 points per game and averaging over 400 yards of total offense per game. And more importantly, okay, which I think is going to be a key component for me making this pick, is Georgia is averaging 35 minutes, over 35 minutes in time of possession per game. And I think they're methodical. They got a quarterback that doesn't make mistakes. He's not flashy. They take what the other defense is giving them, and they're balanced offensively. And I just think this looks to me like a game that Georgia, if they're ever going to win in Tuscaloosa, this is going to be their opportunity. So as of this moment right now, Louis, I like the underdog in this matchup. And I'm not thoroughly convinced, like we alluded to, that this whole 3 points is due to Saban. No head coach in NFL or college football is worth 3 points, okay, if he's out temporarily. Again, I think that the sharp bettors here are betting Georgia, and I think that's prompted this line move. Just my opinion, Lou.
Just too high a price for you. I would tend to agree because Georgia's defense is stout, and Alabama they're finally facing some real defense here this week. Bulldogs are a road team. They terrible cover as a big home favorite, where you think they're going to blow somebody out. But when they get on the road, 20-7, their last 27 road games against the spread. What are you thinking, Chip? Is this is the move? I mean, I don't know. Are you feeling our vibe with Georgia? Is the move too much? What are your thoughts?
The first instinct when I saw this game was that Georgia was going to probably win this game outright. And there were a couple of factors. By the way, that move, I think, came before the announcement about the COVID test positive for Saban. I think so, too. Out.
Now that I'm thinking,
And the thing is, now that news is out there, it actually makes me shy away from the Bulldogs a little bit, Georgia, because, it's that whole thing that when teams rally around the lamppost, when there's adversity, and they suck it up and they come together. But there is one key point here with Alabama under Saban. The last 6 opponents in the SEC that they have faced that have had a higher yard per carry average, a higher rushing average per attempt, has beaten the Crimson Tide. Georgia has a higher yards per attempt on the ground that makes them like them here. But like I said, with the extenuating factors which are now taking place surrounding this game, I don't like the fact that Saban's not there. I would rather have him on the sideline. I've seen him blow 4 of the last 7 games. I saw him panic in the second half against Clemson. I want Saban on the sideline, and I want Georgia.
Hey, Louis, something you might be interested in because you like totals. Georgia, by the way, since the beginning of last year, 10-2 under the total in conference games against fellow SEC opponents. So they tend to play lower scoring affairs within the conference. And also, Louis, 6-0 under during that same time frame if they're playing an SEC opponent averaging better than 425 or more yards of total offense per contest, and Alabama definitely qualifies in that situation as well.
That is a nice segue for me, Ross, because my thoughts are the under in this scenario. Listen, at this stage, if you really like Georgia the way you guys like it, I think your money line is probably a nice play there too, because if Georgia keeps it close, I think Georgia gets that win. But 7-3 to the under for the Bulldogs, their last 10 games as a road underdog. 9-1 to, like you said, you mentioned the under in the conference games. 9-1 their last 10 games to the under. 10-2 their last 12 overall, as you mentioned. But what scares me a lot. Crimson Tide 5-1 to the over. Their defense has not been doing much of anything, but Georgia doesn't come in with a great offense. But as you alluded to, they have been putting some yards up lately. So 5-1 to the over their last 6 games overall does worry me. 6-1-1 to the over the last 8 head-to-head meetings. But if I could take those out, this would be a huge underplay because you got a high number for this game. So which means it smells with that total up there at What the hell's that total? 56.5 on a Georgia game. Damn, that's a high number. How do you not love it under? We're playing Alabama. Simple as that. All right, that's a tough game, but let's go to a game that I think you have a little an opinion on here, Ross. Let's got to give us here. Texas A&M is at Mississippi State, and the 5.5 and 55.5, I believe, are the numbers. Actually, we'll get to that in a minute, but go ahead and give us your thoughts on that A&M Mississippi State game.
It's like, yeah, I'm sorry. This again, this looks like a public perception play. The public has a short memory. Texas A&M is coming off an upset win at home last week over Florida. The week before they played Alabama. So in the last 2 weeks, they played the then number 2 team in the country and then number 3 team in the country. Now they're going on the road as a favorite against a team that's lost 2 games in a row and not look good in doing so. Now, looking inside the numbers, Mississippi State is 1-2, but they've outgained all 3 of those opponents. They got away with 4 turnovers in their opening win against LSU because KJ Costello just went off with over 600 yards passing. The last 2 games, they've turned it over 10 more times. That was a key component. I mean, you look at the Kentucky game last week, and it looks like Mississippi State got blown out by looking at the final score, 24-2. But you know what? They held Kentucky to 157 yards of total offense in that game. This is a pretty good Mississippi State defense. And I think that that's going to serve them well as a home underdog in this spot. And if they could stay away from self-inflicted wounds, I just can't believe they're going to continue to turn the ball over at the pace they are. And I just can't believe, Louis and Chip, and I'd be interested to hear you guys' thoughts, that after playing Alabama and Florida with the high rankings those 2 opponents had, how could they match that intensity level emotionally and be ready to play this game against a team on a 2-game losing streak, Mississippi State, that really doesn't have the brand name as the previous 2 programs they just played? So I think this is a real danger spot for Texas A&M, Louis.
Okay, I kind of like the way you're thinking there. What about you, Chip? You agree, disagree, or anywhere in between?
Well, I love this matchup to start with, and it's off of the fact that last week I had told everybody all week, including Ross, that I thought Texas A&M was the play of the year in the SEC. Now, they started that game at noon Eastern, and I don't put games of the year on noon Eastern games, so I downgraded to a SEC game in a month. Texas A&M beats Florida outright. Now, as Ross had said, you're expecting this team, which comes up with an upset at home after playing Alabama the week before, to go to Mississippi State, who's off 2 straight losses. I think it's a setup for the Aggies to really take a beating here and get slapped around. I think Mississippi State is the side, and I think this is another big game release.
All right. I will agree with both of you here with Mississippi State. As you know,
wait a minute.
Wait, I want to revise my opinion.
Take this. I want you to say that again, Louis. Say it one more time. I want to hear it again.
I will agree with both of you here today.
I am alive. Okay.
I have a reputation to hold. I don't play well with others. And why am I playing well with you guys right now? You got some good information there, guys. You're right. This looks like the spot for A&M to be flat. Mississippi State, they nipped me a couple times the last 2 weeks as I tried to jump on their train. But I didn't hit them hard. But I think I get my money back this week with Mississippi State as well. So that being said, gentlemen, thank you for finally seeing things my way.
Well, Louis, we were 4-1 against you, and you had that big San Diego LA Charger play for a winner.
That's right.
And we were losers. Right. So you don't play well with others, and that may be to your benefit.
Well, some days it does. Some days it is. So I'll take it when I can get it. No doubt about that. So, all right, guys, that being said, we're not going to have time to go to the NFL picks. We're going to do that tomorrow. We're going to come out with a lot more college football action for you tomorrow. So let's close it out, guys. What do we got? Most interesting play of the day. Chip, what do you got?
Well, I think the interesting play has to be this Tampa-Houston game where we're not even sure who the starters are almost up to game time. And that is, like Ross said, that's such a key factor when you're determining the outcome of a baseball game. We're pretty sure the Rays are going to be going with just about everybody. And who knows what Houston's going to do because their back's against the wall. I mean, now Tuve may be pitching for them. But that is what I'm waiting for, is to find out the starting pitchers there, and I'm still interested in that one.
All right. Well, I have a new starter for you. His name is Curtis, and he is pitching for Tampa Bay today.
Yeah, he's a reliever, Louis. He's a reliever.
Pardon?
He's a reliever.
And he is your starter today.
That answers that question, Chip.
Yeah.
That answers half the question. So, all right. Ross, an interesting play of the day. Do you got anything to give us for today?
Yeah, let's look at Saturday's college football card. Another SEC matchup. The Auburn Tigers travel on the road to Columbia, South Carolina to take on the Gamecocks. 12 p.m. Eastern time start. Right now, I believe, Louis, and you can correct me, Auburn is somewhere around a 3.5-point road favorite in this contest.
3.
If that's incorrect, please correct me.
No, it's 3 right now. 3 minus 20.
Okay, 3.5 in that area. Doesn't matter to me. This is an Auburn team. Look, I think reputation plays a lot in this particular line. I don't think Auburn is anywhere near as good as the teams we've witnessed over the last 4 or 5 years. They were lackluster in their win against Kentucky to start the year. They were hammered by Georgia on the road. Nothing to be ashamed of there. But then they play last week as a double-digit 13.5-point home favorite last week against Arkansas, who had gone 1-20 in their last 21 SEC games, and they barely escaped with a 30-28 win. Not only that, this is not the Auburn defense for sure that we've seen in recent years. They're giving up a lot of yards. Teams are moving the ball against them. And South Carolina, if you look at the strength of schedule here, very intriguing to me. They opened the season up against Tennessee at home. Tennessee is currently number 18 in the country. The following week, they go to Florida, who's currently number 10 in the country. They were very competitive in both of those games, losing by 4 and 14 points. And then last week, they go on the road at Vanderbilt as a road favorite and demolish the Commodores 41-7. I think this is a nice spot for the home underdog here. I think this is one of those perception plays that people are going to see Auburn as a short favorite against a 1-2 team and lean toward the bigger brand name or the team that's had more success in recent years. I think they're going to be on the wrong side of this. I like South Carolina here, plus the 3 or 3.5, whatever you get it at. Back to you, Louis.
All right. So South Carolina, a nice little home doggy, thinks it's going to bark tomorrow from Ross. Thank you very much for that detailed analysis, very in-depth, and hopefully it'll be exactly on point. My most interesting play today I will leave you with is kind of a shot in the dark because we don't have all the pitching in there, but these games have gone under, and I expect it to continue that way with Houston and Tampa Bay. I will lean on that under tonight, and I'll have some interesting parlays and teasers for you tomorrow in college football and the NFL, and we'll get a lot more football information from Chip and Ross tomorrow. I'd like to thank them for joining me here today. I'd like to thank you for watching BettorCenter Live. See you tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.